if you're not helping somebody get results or build relationships with your hiring, with your model, make it affordable but fair, then
Yeah.
you kind of lost sight of like what you're doing. And a lot of people lose sight of what they're doing because they're like,
Oof.
fuck, dude, I gotta like backtrack this. I gotta like cut costs here. I gotta do this. I can't spend marketing this month. It's like white piece of paper. Where are we at right now? Where do we want to get to? And let's figure out how to get there. And what do we need? What don't we need? Get like very granular about like bowling's about like going down and just don't put it in the gutter, right?
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Gym Owners Growth Zone podcast. I'm your host, Andres Escobar, and I'm super excited about this episode and ready to share the conversation I had with our guest, Pete Moore. Pete Moore is the founder and chief dream architect over at Integrity Square. His firm focuses on financial advice for the health, active lifestyle, and outdoor sector. Yeah, that's a mouthful. He has also advised on over 100 mergers and acquisitions. He is also the co-founder of Iron Planet, a leading B2B auction site for heavy equipment. And in addition, his advisory work, Pete has created media and live education properties such as Halo Talks, a B2B podcast in the health sector, and Halo Academy, an executive education bootcamp series. To learn more about Pete, check out thehaloacademy.com. Before we dive in deeper, a lot of pre-production work and editing goes into producing an audio and video podcast like this. Moving forward, we're going to be releasing a ton more gym growth strategies and offers from our guests and sponsors. So subscribe or follow us if you're really looking to grow your gym or your other businesses. You know, we really appreciate your support and are truly thankful for it. So when you're listening to the show and you think of a friend, do them a favor and share it with them. Because we all know sharing is caring. And it's also a really nice thing to do around here. My last ask is simple. We all know ratings and reviews are really helpful for any business and podcast. We would greatly appreciate it if you would leave us your feedback in a form of a review, which helps us reach a wider audience and improve the show for you. By the way, if you have any other comments or if you need to reach me, feel free to connect directly with me on Instagram at MeetEsco. I love to hear any suggestions or concerns you want to share with me. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Andres Escobar, the number one. Now, as we dive into Pete's episode today, I'm really intrigued to get your opinions and your thoughts about what he's about to share with us. So let's go ahead and jump in and listen to our show. Hey guys, welcome back to the Gym Owners Growth Zone. And I am so lucky to have Pete Moore as a guest. And Pete Moore, and I just feel like it just sounds great to just say Pete Moore because it's like everybody wants more.
Yeah, I used that as a presidential high school campaign, I think, back in the day, Andres.
Use what you got, right? Use what you got. I love it. So, Pete, I want to make sure that the audience has a good grasp of who you are and the value that you're about to bring them. If you could do me a favor and give us like your origin story, and it doesn't have to be, a long synopsis. It could be as long or short as you want it to be, honestly, because we're all ears. Love to hear about how you got started and where you are right now.
Awesome. Yeah, well, one, thanks for having me on the show, and look forward to a big 2023 fully recovered, rebound for the industry. And as I've been saying since COVID day one, that the bricks and mortar of this category will not go away. And I'm going to talk about with you today why it's never going to go away and why we're going to get bigger and stronger. But I started out back in high school, lived in Westbury, Long Island. I was always a big sports guy. I always preferred team sports, being around other people. And I always gravitated towards playing defense, and playing the goalie on soccer was probably my most defining athletic position. Part of it was because my dad let me use his change machine when the ice cream man came around. So I used to eat a lot of sweets before I went to sleep. So I got a little chubby and used to shop at the Husky department of Sears, which, they've psychologically decided that's not a good term for kids to go in and buy elastic jeans. But,
Right.
when you're tall and you're a little bit chubby and you go to a soccer practice and you realize, all right, I'm allowed to use my hands. I don't have to run as fast as everybody else. That was a good place for you if you were taking down a lot of sugar back in the day and you didn't have a nutritional label on anything. Having said that, I got really good at playing soccer and being the goalie and just understanding the dynamics of like, hey, I'm at the back. I got to make sure we don't lose,
Okay.
and it's not my responsibility for us to win the game. And I got really comfortable with, hey, we won this game 2-0 or 3-0, and I don't need to be one of the guys that scores the goals. I just want to make sure that I'm part of the winning team and the winning solution.
By the way, the
And then
goalies are such a super important. You downplayed it a little bit, but I think it's one of the you see the whole field. You literally can call out things and listen. I literally in one of our ads we talk about the goalie in the World Cup. Basically won the game for Argentina. So
yeah,
I think you're
good
super
point.
important. So anyways, continue
Yeah,
the
so
story.
and we'll talk about my book later, but
Yes,
I kind of say if you're the CEO of a company, you're basically the goalie of the soccer team,
that's
and
it.
as an owner, you're building a defense, and when you think about like building a defense, that's basically building your corporate overhead. So who's my CFO or my financial accounting? Who's my director of operations? Who's handling my HR? Who's handling my construction? Who's handling my legal? And I'm basically at the back, and I got to go and hire playmakers. I got to go hire salespeople. I got to go hire, great group exercise instructors, and they're responsible for basically scoring the goals. And I'm basically in the back saying, how can I help you allow that to happen? And how can
Yeah.
I see the lanes as you're talking about? One of the big things, and I actually, as an aside, when I go watch a football game or a basketball game or a hockey game or soccer game, I will only go now and I will sit in the back of the goal or the
Uh-huh.
goalpost because I want to see what's developing on the field.
Yeah.
People say like, "Oh, I want a 50-yard line seat, 10 rows up." It's like you're not seeing what's happening on the field. So the perspective of a goalie and anyone who's played professional or team or high school sports would always say like, look, there's more strategy to this, and this once you deploy the strategy and you can see the field,
Hmm.
then you can really execute on what you're doing. So long story short, where we were getting to
Right.
is,
Right. Your
I was the
story.
goalie. Yeah, I was always like
Pete
supporting
has so
other
much
people to
value. I
win.
love it. Thanks, Pete.
And as I kind of went through it, my dad was the CEO of a beverage equipment company back in the day. So I used to provide coffee machines, cappuccino machines, fryers.
Right.
And I used to go in on days off from school and put together marketing brochures. And he had 300 people working for him in a factory, right by LaGuardia Airport in Long Island City. And I realized quickly that, a lot of things that you need to be good at as a CEO is you got to be able to listen. You got to be able to like understand the audience. You need to know everybody's name. I mean, everybody's name. The person that's in charge of the cage that's got the spare parts, up to the people that are running your sales and marketing department. On a worldwide basis. So I realized that like a lot of the DNA that you need to have to run a successful business is being a good listener,
Mm.
understanding what the problems are, and also a lot of the solutions that you need to run a successful business, it's already in the minds and hearts and souls of the people that live and breathe your brand, and you just got to basically get it out of them and make sure that they're not afraid to tell you, hey, look, we got to change this, or I think I could do better if I had X, Y, Z. So I learned at an early age, if you're going to be a CEO or you're going to be a leader, it's not about you scoring. It's about you managing and taking and optimizing people. So as I kind of went through, Emory was where I did my undergrad. I was the intramural athlete of the year. That's my physical athletic claim to fame in 1993. Ran a fraternity, so I understood, how to manage your peers. Then went back to banking. Started in banking at Chase Manhattan Bank and Donaldson, Lufkin and Gen Red, and I did everything in Excel models and PowerPoint,
Okay.
and that was awesome. It's like, but it would be like, Andres, okay, grow this revenue by 30%, year over year. Cut 10% of, expenses. Grow the membership base X, Y, Z, and here's what the returns are. And, you get so used to doing things in Excel that you think like, oh, that shit must be really easy to just do like in the physical world, not just on a spreadsheet. And I went to Harvard Business School, and I fully appreciated that if you want to run a business and you
Yeah.
want to run a sustainable one, it takes, market validation. That could take years if you get a product to market or get a service to market or get a brand, into people's heads and what it means, with a logo or with some kind of script that makes you emanates a feeling.
Yeah.
Like I'm a big Soul Cycle addict. So
Right.
when I see Soul Cycle, that logo, like it has certain chemical, changes. I get excited. My endorphins are like, all right, Lou, we're ready to rock and roll. And I
Love
think a
it.
lot of people in the boutique space kind of have that same feeling. But make a long story short, I went to Harvard Business School to help start up a company there, was tinkering around with some things on the internet, and then went down, got my first job 20 miles south of where you are right now in Boca Raton.
Yeah.
And I worked at the private equity fund that inevitably ended up buying Gold's Gym International. And
Nice.
the funny story there is that I was 27 years old, moved down to Boca Raton in 1999. I was like one of the first of all my friends to have a 561 area code, probably 30 years before, actual possible retirement.
Yeah.
It's gotten a lot more professionalized in South Florida since I was down there
Sure.
then. But I worked for a firm called Brockway Moran and Partners, and they owned a aerospace parts company, an agricultural tank business, the company that does the blue chemicals that go on the airplane toilets.
Mm.
And the first day I was there, they said we also have a letter of intent to acquire Gold's Gym International. And I kind of quickly scanned the room, and I'm like, I'm definitely the only guy in here, these 10 people that work at this investment firm,
Mm.
that actually owns a Gold's Gym tank top, which I
Ooh.
did. And I also
Yeah.
had a Gold's Gym membership. So I
Right.
raised my hand. I'm like, hey, I was an athlete. I work out. I got a membership at the Gold's Gym 2 miles down the road from here. I'd love to be on the Gold's Gym deal as the junior associate, the guy doing the Excel models and the PowerPoint and,
Love it.
looking at the KPIs. And I basically haven't left the industry since August 1st of 1999.
Wow.
And I've been an entrepreneur. I've been an investor. I've been an angel investor. I've been an operator. I ran a software company. Didn't take a salary for 3 years. Kind of ran around as a crazy entrepreneur. So I know how that feels.
Talk about that
You
faith.
could,
Yeah.
yeah, you could tell somebody, oh, I know how it feels. You don't know how it feels until you move money from your checking account into your business account to take payroll, or to go to the post office, hope that a check shows up,
Yeah.
back in the day, or hope that your client, stays on and doesn't cancel. And really, managing people, managing product, and then, what needs to happen today and what needs to happen, a year from now or 3 years from now. So I learned, what it takes to be an entrepreneur. I fully appreciated it doing that software venture for 3 years, which ended up being run and still is alive through my partner running it down in Arizona. But I'd say from there I went back and I started doing deals. So I helped a group called what was the Crunch deal, Massage Envy,
Mm-hmm.
did a financing introduction for Equinox on one of their big debt financings. Did several Gold's Gym rebrands. So that's everything from EOS to Spectrum and Bay
Wow.
Clubs to Club One, to Texas Family Fitness. We're the long-term advisors to Jersey Strong. We worked with the Galliani brothers when they rebranded to One Life from Gold's. So we've been in the mix on probably about a third of all the M&A, mergers and acquisitions,
And that's just the ones at the top
transactions.
of your mind right there. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
lot
we got
more.
about 100. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did four, about to do another one, about five Orange Theory area development deals where basically what our role is, so it's understood by the listeners here, is Integrity Square is effectively what we call an investment bank. And what we do is you come to us and say, hey, I've got 5 studios or I've got 5 gyms,
Right.
or health clubs or sports complexes. I now think I have an opportunity to go from 5 to 15 or 5 to 50.
Right.
And obviously, as an entrepreneur, you can't, you don't have the financial capability to do that on your own. And it's not prudent to take on a loan that has a personal guarantee. And also, you're tapped out
Right.
from the SBA on how much you can really take and how much people are comfortable with. At some point, you sign in so many personal guarantees. It's like, what's another $1 million lease? What's another $5 million loan, right? and you wake up one morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're like, wow, my risk reward here,
Mm-hmm.
if there is a COVID, or if there is some, a fire, or if there is a, a force majeure, a weather, a hurricane that hits my city, like I'm in a lot of trouble. So a lot of entrepreneurs, come to us and say, hey, look, I built this as far as I can take it on my own. I need institutional or outside capital. And what I usually tell people is like, look, if you're an entrepreneur and you've got 5 health clubs, and then you're up against a Planet Fitness that has a 50 store development agreement, and it's backed by a big investment firm that has money from University of Florida's endowment fund and University of Miami's pension fund,
Mm-hmm.
and high net worth investors, and CalPERS, which is one of the largest asset managers. They own all the assets to pay out the retirement and pension and healthcare for all the California retirees. They have a $44 billion investment into the private equity firms. So private equity firms that invest in companies, they no longer need to sign a personal guarantee on leases. They don't have to sign a personal guarantee on debt because it's supposedly smart money or institutional money. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're competing against another business that has access to institutional capital,
Mm-hmm.
it's like chess versus checkers,
100%.
unfortunately, on the same board. So what we try and do on our end is say, look, how can I provide you with the tools to field a team? If we go back to soccer,
Yeah.
be able to win at what you're doing, and
Yeah.
also be able to then explain what your special sauce is, what your key performance indicators are, how you compete successfully against these other groups. What does my P&L look like, and why is my income statement have X amount of marketing, X amount of, I can't pay X amount of a lease.
Right.
Here's how I staff my business. So
So
we've got something called Halo Academy, Halo
right.
Talks, and then
That's right.
Integrity Square is kind of the M&A advisory firm.
And I would just want to like reemphasize on, if you are battling institutional funding, I think it's not even just chess against checkers. It's more like chess against tic tac toe. You're playing a different game.
Exactly.
You're playing a different
Exactly.
game. You're not even thinking about these things that you don't even know. Uh, and and something I learned today, well, not learned, but it's I remember today, and got fresh in my memory, is you cannot receive what you don't conceive. And so some people that want to play higher, you're not conceiving. Your context is not big enough to fill what you need to actually go out and get bigger things. And so I just love that, Pete, and how you're helping the industry and the people who are gaining some momentum, and they have so much more potential to grow and become, Soul Cycle, that, Equinox owns them, right?
Yeah, Equinox holding company owns them.
Yep.
I think there, during COVID, a lot of people had time to, take a pause and say, let me learn about the other concepts that I'm competing with.
Right.
Um, and there's part of the business model is to understand. Okay, Orange Theory is an example. The one thing that you need to know about Orange Theory that's different than an average studio is an average studio has 300 members plus minus. At stability, Orange Theory has 800 members, and what they do is they say, okay, you want an unlimited membership? Well, let me tell you what an unlimited membership is. It's limited, right? So that's the special sauce of the model, because you get 8 classes a month, right? That's kind of like your unlimited, or like the maximum number. And that
Right.
allows you to have the capacity as an Orange Theory operator to actually have space and time slots that'll allow and cater to 800 people. Because if you had somebody coming every day, you're going to tap out at 300 or 400 members, even if you run the best, operation. And then you look at the franchise documents that a lot of these franchisors put out, and they have something called Item 19. And Item 19 in the franchise disclosure document, the FDD, is the financial statements of all the franchisees that are in the network and the franchisor. So you can literally go through, and the benefit to a competitor is that if you want to go and see, how does Orange Theory make money? How does Massage Envy make money? How does European Wax? How does, Cycle Bar, Club Pilates? Like, they're putting all the financials in their franchise disclosure documents, which are legally obligated to do in order to sell a franchise. But they're showing those financials because you're not allowed to tell a prospective franchisee, "Hey, Andres, you become a Club Pilates franchisee. You're going to make X amount of dollars, every year." You're not allowed to say that. It's like you're hyping something up that might not happen. But what a franchisor can do is say, "Hey, just look. I can't tell you. I'm not allowed to. But go look at item 19, and that's where the P&Ls." So by them trying to use that for sales purposes, it's also publicly available because you can get all these FDDs. You can get them. Your competitors could get them. So there's been no better time to actually compete in an industry where you've got companies that are either publicly traded, like Planet Fitness. They come out every quarter and tell you exactly what's going on with their network. Lifetime Fitness is now public, and Exponential's public. So you've got that information and data and kind of trends going on. And also they're going to tell you what they're doing and what they're thinking about doing because they got to talk to the public markets and public investors, and they have to give forward-looking statements, right? So if I'm a competitor and I know that XYZ health club chain is coming into West Palm Beach, right? Let's say Lifetime Fitness comes in. We're putting 4 clubs in West Palm Beach. Okay, I know it's going to take them 3+ years to build those things out, right? Because it's 100,000 square feet. So if I'm a current operator in West Palm Beach and I find out that, hey, I know my competitor just announced because they're trying to, make sure the investor community knows, hey, we're growing and we're growing in like these high demographic areas. At the same time, okay, I just got an alert that I got a competitor coming here in 24 to 36 months. How am I going to reinvent my business, or how am I going to be prepared for when they invade? And then what I tell people is like, look, you got to really think about your business. And when you go to a trade show, I use this analogy. It's a military analogy, so hopefully everybody on here can stomach this. But when Russia invaded the Ukraine, 8 months ago now, if you think about like what did you hear in the news or what came out of the mouths of the people that were running Ukraine, they just said one thing. They said, "Send me javelins." Right? You remember that? That's all I want, dude. They didn't say I want lactate milk. I need some ammunition. I need some diapers and some. And then we need food. They didn't say it. They said, "Dude, send me javelins." Okay, that's the only thing.
Tell us what javelins are, because I was in the military. I was in the Air Force, as a matter of fact, and I'm
it's
like that.
anti-tank. Laser guided missiles. I think is like probably the best descriptor of that. My point is that when you go to a trade show or when somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to help you fix your business," you got to decide if as a gym operator, like I can only buy a certain amount of weapons, right? My weapons could be I got the best equipment. I got like these badass Pilates machines, right? That's like my javelin. It could be I got the best salespeople in town because they know everybody and they grew up here. They were like played Division 1, at University of Florida or University of Miami. So like everybody gravitates towards them because they're like elite athletes. Or it could be I got the best location. So my javelin is my lease, right? No one ever said to me, "Andres, I got this shitty location next to a Whole Foods." Never came out of anybody's mouth except my own as a joke, right? Because the traffic flows there. So my javelin and my asset is my lease. It could be my programming. It could be that I get people results and I got like a special sauce. It could be my culture. So when you think about like going to a trade show, or you think about like taking random calls from somebody who says like, "Hey, I can help you go through your database and figure out how many members are most likely to leave in the next 90 days. That's like they call that artificial intelligence. I want everyone to pause for a second and tell me how much intelligence you have. All right. You can't get artificial intelligence unless you have intelligence. And what this industry needs to do in 2023.
So true. I love that.
Yeah. So in 2023, and we do this at our Halo Academy, and I do some seminars. I say to people, in a room, I had like 50 health club operators a couple of months ago. I said, if I was a new member into your club, I want you to ask me questions and tell me what you think motivates me. Because ABC Financial came out with a report that 65% of the people leave a health club because they lost motivation, right? Yeah. So think about, instead of saying like, "Hey, when's your birthday?" and like, "Can I get you a fitness evaluation?" You go to, I think club operators and studio operators need to say, They look, Andres, for one, what do you want to achieve? Okay. Most people want to achieve like 20 to 30 pounds of weight loss and muscle gain. Like that's kind of like 80% of
That's
like
it.
what people want, right? I want to be able to take my shirt off
Simple.
at a beach. I want to take my shirt off when I feel like it, right? And I
Yeah.
want to like feel like people are like, oh, bro, you're looking good, right? Or vice versa, right? And you feel confident. But what people don't take the time to put into their member database or their activities is like the story I told you before. Hey, Pete Moore is paranoid about having to go into Sears and buying elastic jeans. Okay. Now, if everybody in,
That's right.
think about this, if everyone,
No Husky
no
brands.
Husky,
No
bro.
Husky
So
brands.
if everyone in your studio or in your club, like, hey, this guy Pete Moore, like, if you see him, like, if his face looks a little chubby or like he's looking like he's like a little bit lethargic, just go up to him, bro, and just say like, man, we're not going back to Sears, right? Bam, bro, that motivates me. Okay, you know what else?
Trigger.
You know what
Right
else?
there. The trigger
Right,
point.
you know what else motivates me?
Boom.
Just as an example to go down this path. The other thing that motivates me is I like to get yelled at. I'm just telling you. I grew up in an era of playing high school sports, and I went up to my coach one time who was yelling at me like every practice, Coach K, in ninth grade. I was the captain of the basketball team. And I want to give you some of these because people need to think about how to incorporate this. And I think this
Yeah.
is going to be super important. So this guy used to yell at me all the time. I'm like, why do you keep yelling at me? I'm doing the best I can every practice. He's like, look, man, the reason why I yell at you is because you have more potential than you have right now. And I'm going to get you to
Mm.
that next level. And he's like, when you know, when you should come up to me, you should come up to me when I'm not yelling at you. Because if I'm not yelling at you, that means I gave up on you. And I think you peaked.
Mm.
Right. So I want to get yelled at because I want someone else.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. Not in maybe this new era of like, you know, everyone's like a little bit too like sensitive. Find out the people that want to get yelled at. Okay. Here's another thing
Yeah.
that I love.
I love that.
Here's another thing that love. I love catching footballs. Right. That I wasn't allowed to play. I had to play soccer, which I did well at. But if you, I can catch anything. So if you need to have that in your database. That look, let's say you're a health club operator and you hire a new personal trainer, and he happen to go to University of South Florida, and he was a wide receiver, okay? And he's running group exercise and personal training classes. I need to know that. I need to know that as soon as possible because I'm doing a 10-pack with that guy, right? I'm doing it. So you need to know what motivates me. You know, other things that motivate me is like I hit the snooze button a lot because I work late and sometimes I miss my class. So you know what? Somebody might say to me in my why don't you come to the club sometime? Why do you lack motivation, bro? I sleep through it. So why don't you
Yeah.
give me a wake up call? Is that so hard?
Right.
Or even
So hard.
better, once you,
And that's where you use artificial intelligence. Like, hey, program the artificial intelligence to wake
but
them
you
up.
gotta have the primary intelligence in order to make it
You have to have primary
right?
intelligence, 100%.
So you need to know that I'm a
It's
guy.
not going to work if you don't have
You need
it.
to know that I'm a guy. Like
That's
I
what you're
want
talking
that. I
about.
want that call, and I might want to call it directly from you as a personal trainer. Or if all these people live in a 5-mile radius of the club on average, right? Is there
Yeah.
a reason why there's not like a school bus that picks people up? There's a school bus that picks kids up,
Right.
elementary school. So if you had, you know, Escobar Fitness and it was like a little mini bus that was wrapped around and we're doing like a 6 to 8 a.m., not even like
Wow.
all day long. Just go pick people up and be like, hey, man, you're coming to the gym and I'm going to make sure you come to the gym because I'm outside your house.
That's a pretty cool concept.
Nobody's
man.
doing it, right?
That's awesome.
Nobody's doing it because everyone's jumping to
No
it.
one's doing it.
You know why they're not doing it? It's because everyone jumps to say like, oh, I sent an email out to people. I do a text message.
Right.
So people sometimes hide behind technology to think that
Right.
they did something. But this is
Right.
there's no, and this is why during COVID I said, look, you think we're going to be like Blockbuster or like the arcade industry? It's not going to happen because something happens inside of a class, something happens inside of a club, you know, where there's community, where you feel good about yourself, where you push harder. And I don't want to work out in my apartment, you know. I don't want DoorDash showing up every day, and I want to leave here and go somewhere and then come back and feel like I've achieved something. So my point is, before you go, find out like what motivates people, what pisses people off, what rewards they want. Do they like gift cards? Do they like peanut M&Ms? Do they like pizza, like, you know, Planet Fitness does? And start to think about like, if I dump all this intelligence, then I got a real member because I know like what their buttons are. So people are like, oh, I lost 30% of my members, but I lost 1,000 members last year, but I picked up 1,040. I'm like, those 1,000 people kind of like they died, right? Why'd they leave? Because you didn't fucking have any information on them to get them results.
And the thing, who has the information? It's interesting you mentioned losing members, because I have a club that lost a trainer, and with that trainer went the members, because the trainer knew them
Right.
and knows them, but the owner doesn't know them
Exactly.
like the trainer does.
So look.
So collect the information, make sure you have it, not just your trainers, but collect it from your trainers, and that way you're able to say, hey, by the way, you this trainer's leaving, but hey, I know this and this and this. We'll make sure we'll take care of you. Don't worry about it.
And look, the software is out
Love
there
it.
now that you got to use the software. The software's got activity logs, it's got fields, it's got reminders, it's got classifications, it's got ways to cut the data. But if you as a club owner in 2023 can't really like get to the granular level, and it only takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes, instead of doing a fitness evaluation, let's do a motivation evaluation. Hey, I'm going to bring Andres in. He's my motivational specialist. He's going to ask you 20 questions. Those 20 questions are like, that's gold. That is like, that is digital gold to me.
Digital gold. Oh, so good. I love that. It's retention. If we talk about the biggest issue that gym owners is keeping their members motivated and retaining them, and then also their team members as well. So also retain information from your team members, like know them, understand what's their passion. And I was talking about this earlier. It's so important to collect that EQ, emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you got a copy of the book yet, but we wrote this book called Time to Win Again, which is 52 takeaways from team sports to ensure your business success. And we'll send you a copy and put it on the show notes. But basically, I was watching The Last Dance with Michael Jordan back during COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, why doesn't everybody in the health club industry that works in the health club industry, why does it just say trainer on the back, or salesperson on the back? Why does it say my last name? And like, why isn't this like a football jersey? And, you played soccer back in the day? What was your sport of choice?
Soccer, a little bit of everything. Yeah.
So like, I tell people when we go around these seminars, like, give everyone an authentic uniform, right? I got this pin, dude. Somebody gave me this pin the other day at this event. Okay. You can't even read it, right? Like this is in like, right? This thing is like in like Keep Moore's in like 4 font, and then Friend of the Firm's in like 3 font, right? So you'd have to like lean in to even see me. What if I had my name on the back and just said Moore on the back with a number, and then the Gold's Gym guys just bought all these jerseys for one of their clusters, so everyone's got a Gold's Gym football jersey with their name on the back. And what I tell them is like, look, when you're an athlete, no matter how old you are, and you strap on a jersey, shit changes, man. Everything gets more serious. So I'm not going onto a field. I'm going into my club. I'm going into my job, and I'm wearing my jersey. I'm ready to go. And what I think it also does, one, I got my name on the back, so I'm not going to be like, playing with my phone, because someone's going to be like, hey, this guy's doing X, Y, Z in the locker room. What's his name? Oh, number 26, more like a penalty in football. And what you could also do, which hasn't happened yet, but what I tell my club operators when I say get everybody authentic jersey and spend the $60, $70 doing it with their name on the back, if they leave or if you fire them, take the jersey back. And
really
take their letters off. I'm not kidding. Okay, because every athlete that I've ever met never wants to give up their jersey. Okay, so make it like, look, this is an organization. I'm giving you the right to represent my brand. And when you don't represent my brand anymore, for whatever reason, that I'm taking that jersey back. I'm unembroidering your name, and I'm putting the next person's name on it. And get like militant about this stuff and say, look, you as an athlete, like you're on the field, right? You're like one of my starting 11 players, right? I'm going to treat you like an athlete. And if you don't show, somebody sometimes say like, this guy didn't show up today. Actually, that's the only thing he did do, and then someone's like, oh, this guy didn't show up for this game. He showed up, dude. He didn't do anything to contribute. And he was detrimental to the team. So I feel like people in this industry, like we're just an extension of like athletics in a way, right?
It is.
So let's treat it that 100%. Way. And let's go and get Division 1, 2, and 3 athletes or kids in high school, that know what it's like to be on a team, are committed to that team effort,
they need to.
And not are, freewheeling and saying like, oh, like I'm a singles tennis player. I play golf, but I only play singles, or I'm pickleball and I only play singles. Probably not going to make the team, right? Because he doesn't know.
She isn't on
because
you talked about Right. As you talked about the team, I think one of the biggest, best teams out there would be the military. And you talked about the military a little bit, and it's like having the javelin, but no man left behind. Like I'm not gonna leave you. That guy's coming with me. Also, he's got my back. I got his back, and we're moving forward. But then the singles teams don't work.
Right.
Singles teams don't work, and then you come together with the sports analogy. I love what you're putting together, and we're this is just the introduction, guys.
Oh, it is. Okay. All right. That's good. Good to
No,
hear.
it's okay. We're covering a lot of things because I think you covered a lot of things that could be improved on the fitness industry. I'm not going to ask you that question because we just talked about it. Like this is beautiful. This is so good, Pete. We really
The,
appreciate
the
it.
one the one thing I'd
It's
add to that, not to cut you off,
yeah.
but to add to it is,
No,
a lot
please.
of people think they're like, oh, I'm hiring these employees, and you know, um, there's like here's this like 5 year plan. I kind of would break things down into like a season. Like nobody cares that the Giants. I'm a New York Giants fan. Nobody cares that the Giants went like 4-12 or 3-13 2-3 years ago. They just care that we made the playoffs this year. This was the team. This is the players. We went like 10-6 or whatever the final was. So think about like I'm hiring somebody, and I'm hiring you for like the 2023 season. Okay, this is
Right.
like a psychological change for people to
Mm,
say like, hey, I'm hiring you. I don't know what your long term contribution is here, but I'm going to put you as like head of group exercise, or I'm going to put you as head of personal training for 2023. Okay, and then in December of
mm,
2023, just like a sports team does, I'm going to evaluate my
mm.
personnel. I'm going to decide what we need, what the results were. Is this the right culture? Do I need to change things up? And I might take the head of personal training down the road, and that person might become like, I don't know, regional director. I don't know. Maybe they do certain things, and they're outgrown this location. So I need them to keep them and to use that person to their best ability. I'm going to make them a regional director. I'm going to push them around to other
Right.
clubs because they've got this contagious energy and way that they do things that I wanted to have them be on like the education and like the sales
Right.
side. Um,
I love that
yeah,
process.
so think
It's
about it.
it's
Think about
amazing.
everything as a
Yeah.
team. Like who's playing defense, who's playing offense. Maybe shift it up. Give people multiple skills and figure out a way like where that personal trainer doesn't leave because you pay them well, you got growth, and there's they got benefits and other things. So
Yeah.
make it hard to leave for the people that you want to keep, and make it easy to leave for the people that
Right.
shouldn't be on the team. Just like a sports team.
Sharing, yeah. Benefits, like it's not just the job, it's not the hour. If it's just the job and the money, then you probably don't have the right culture inside of your
Exactly.
business.
Yeah.
And it's got to be more than that. So I love what you're bringing to the table. It's finding the right people, and you have to shift through some
Yeah.
garbage to find the
Yeah.
right people.
Definitely.
So I really enjoyed how, man, you just kind of like this whole strategy in less than half an hour. You've basically laid out what 2023 can be for the gym owner that's looking to change things up and make it their club a lot better and stand out. Like we talked about the javelin. What's their javelin?
Exactly.
So
So
good.
there's two things.
Yeah.
There's really two like takeaways. You're gonna go to a trade show, and you're gonna walk around, and people are gonna try and sell you, a new system or a new service or a new product. And I would encourage people to say like, is this a javelin? Is this my new weapon? Because everything you
Mm,
buy in order to support your business is basically a weapon. So think about going in like a trade show is basically like an arms
wow.
dealership, right?
Yeah.
My arms dealership might be like, hey, dude, if we don't have like anti-aircraft, radar defense systems, then right, if we don't have that as the military, like we're
Yeah. Yeah.
severely disadvantaged. Just like if you don't have a good software platform that has information
Right.
in it, it's collecting your revenue and showing you reports. Like so, that's basically like your anti-aircraft, you know, software platform or central nervous system of the club, right?
Yeah.
And if
How are you managing your members? Yeah. Is it just, and what do you mean by management? Is it just collecting money, or do you actually have data like you talked about that's going to help you retain that customer, that member,
Right. So
right?
technology is a weapon, right? That just happens to be one
Yeah.
of the weapons, right? My
Right.
signage is another weapon. What
Hmm.
my brand looks like, how my people are talking to other people, you know. So I kind
Yeah.
of
The
toggle
culture.
between like, here's like some military references. And then if I'm a sports team, what's everybody's role here and what constitutes a win, and how
Sure.
do we get our members,
Define it.
you've been in this industry for a while. And back in 1999, when I started, they used to have a Gold's Gym, body transformation challenge. It was $100,000.
Right.
20,000 people would do this for like 3 months, and then they have winners. And basically, the majority of the people, like we talked about right when we started, they want to change the way they look and they want to change the way they feel. And somehow the health clubs and the studios, like they started to get away from, or didn't fully define, like, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to basically do three things. I'm here to get you results that you want physically, mentally, and in your society and psychologically. I want to help you build relationships, and I want
Mm-hmm.
you to spread the word to other people that I can help them live a better, happier life. So, there's a business model that has to be attached to that. There's investments that are attached to that. And if you're not helping somebody get results or build relationships with your hiring, with your model, make it affordable but fair, then
Yeah.
then you kind of lost sight of like what you're doing. And a lot of people lose sight of what they're doing because they're like, fuck,
Oof.
dude, I gotta like backtrack this. I gotta like cut costs here. I gotta do this. I can't spend marketing this month. It's like, white piece of paper. Where are we at right now? Where do we want to get to? And let's figure out how to get there. And what do we need? What don't we need? Get like very granular about, like, bowling's about like going down and just don't put it in the gutter, right?
Go is a beautiful word to hear when you're scoring on the soccer field. This last World Cup was won by Argentina because of one important player. Yeah, you got it. It was the goalie. He secured the win for the team, and in the same way, ReviewBiz platform will catch negative reviews before they go online. In addition, it helps you score and promote fresh new reviews so you can crush the competition. So don't let those big box gyms take your clients. ReviewBiz will help you build your online presence and turn your own members into your best sales reps. Get your first 5 reviews for only $1. All you got to do is go to reviewbiz.io/try to get started.
Got to get some
You're talking
guardrails.
about vision. It's all
It's
what
all
it is.
vision
Talking
and
about
then
vision.
execute it.
And without vision, this is actually biblical. The people perish. And you can use that right for your club. You can use it right in there. You got to make sure that your people know what your vision is. If not, they're just going to come up with it, and then your culture is going to be out of whack. It's not going to work for anybody.
Right, and look, you could get a software platform, and you could get all the KPIs you want. I could give you all the
Yeah.
key performance indicators of how many members you should have per square foot, how much revenue you should have per member, in what categories you have. But I think there's certain clubs that should say, okay, what are two things that really matter, or three things that really matter to me. So there's this woman that was in one of our academy classes, and she's was an Orange Theory owner, and she's like, if I have more than 800 members at any time, I know that my team's doing a good job, because that's basically the maximum amount of people that I can accommodate. And if there's plus minus 10 or 20, but I still am at 800, she's like, that's basically the only thing that matters. If that goes down to 700, I know I got a personnel issue, I got a competitive issue that came up, or something's going on inside the club that's like a bad vibe, or it's not clean, right? So that was
Right.
her indicator. That, like, key performance indicators, by the way. If people think about, like, what does that mean, right? Like, it's indicating something that I either have achieved, or it's indicating I got a problem, right? That's like a
Right.
KPI.
That's it.
So from a standpoint of other people, they might say, look, I need to know how many referrals I'm getting, and I'm just going to look at my churn. And those people that leave, I got to find out why they leave. And if they're leaving because they're not motivated, or they haven't achieved results, that's on me as the owner, right? If they want
Right.
to go try a competitor, if they, are sick, they want to have like they're out of the workouts, or they got a personal trainer for a period of time, and they're cycling through some other, but that's natural. Like, I'm not going to keep everybody, right? But I want my fair share of people that are trying new things. I want other people that are in other modalities to now try mine,
Right.
right? And I want them to cycle through, and I want at least like 3 years
Sharing the
of it.
member.
Yeah,
Right. So I think so a lot of gym owners in this world, they're like, this is my member. They shouldn't be able to go anywhere else. No, well, listen, you are a martial arts gym, or you are a CrossFit gym, and they want to do boxing.
yeah.
That's okay. Like, let them do other things. It doesn't it's
There's
okay.
nothing
Share the
you're
number.
nothing you're going to do about that from a standpoint
Yeah.
of what people want to try out. So I think but knowing why people leave, or knowing
Yeah.
what their results have been, that's a key indicator to me.
How would you share? Let me ask you this: what would you recommend to the audience? Because I know, hey, everybody asks, everybody sends an email, you ask, and then not everybody replies. Not everybody tells you, even for our software, like they'll leave, and they think they solved the problem with their another software, but it really is not really going to solve it for them. So I kind of know with some questions I ask, but how do you recommend if they don't say anything? Like, how do you entice them? How do you influence them to
Yeah, I
come
mean
in? How do you
we're
get
an
going?
investor. We work with a company called Promotion Vault, so it's like basically
Yes,
action oriented, gift
perfect.
cards. And those could be in increments of $5 or $10, and then people will fill out the surveys, or they'll
Right.
interact with you, and then they'll
Love it.
either validate that card or not. So that's
Yeah.
one way to do it.
Yeah.
Second thing to do is just have a feedback loop that look, every time you get a DoorDash order, afterwards it says like, rate the driver, rate the food, rate the
Yeah.
wait time, right? And people are either skipping through that, or half the people are probably putting in like what they thought about it, because it only takes 10 seconds. So after every group exercise class or every personal training, there's no reason to not have a survey loop that goes back, or to do with Blair McCaney and MXM, and do a net promoter score. Um,
Sure.
yeah,
NPS.
and then the other things is really, you know, part of the problem, and look, gym owners and unit operators, there's only so much time you have in a day. So as much as I know you as a gym owner, want to look at the data, figure out what it means, troubleshoot, get ahead of things, that might be happening at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, after you shut
Right.
down the studio, after you put your kids to bed, after you went to dinner, after you got your own workout in, right? So it's not
Hmm.
easy to do this. And I think some of the
Not easy.
software companies are going to be providing more and more reporting and maybe direction, and say like, hey, here's what you got to think about. Here's some things that we're seeing that historically look like, you got to figure out how to get around or fix or negate, this trend. So there's a lot of outside sources that are going to be helping that, and probably charging you for some of that. But going back to the point of what I was saying before, is like, intelligence is the way to get
Mm.
this information, and don't let somebody convince you in 2023 that they could help you with artificial intelligence, until you have gotten to the point where you can now, so speaking to your audience, that you could say with a straight
Yeah.
face to Andres and I, hey, I got all the information I know and I need to know to make sure that this person stays motivated. And if I don't, then don't hire anybody to recut your data, because you don't have the data. It's not real.
You
Um,
need that
yeah,
initial. I love it.
and then
I love that concept.
yeah, and then the other point related to that is, you know, you can't grow a business in a new location until you really have nailed the unit economics of your own. So don't go out and talk to investors about, hey, I'm doing a second, a third, I'm doing a fifth location, when you're like halfway through your first one, or you got two locations and you're thinking like, oh, I'm thinking of buying about like a 20 store development agreement. Like, some of the people that try and grow too fast forget that it takes time to like understand how a business runs. Unless you've done it before in this same space, you need to know the right people to hire. You need to know, what time the classes need to be. You need to know traffic flows. You need to know the groups in that area. You need to know, what local marketing works, what doesn't work. If I'm going to work with influencers or not. Um, are my instructors, are they responsible for bringing people in, or am I responsible for that? So
Right.
am I like Madison Square Garden and they're like a music artist, or are we doing kind of like a rev share deal here? Or do you work for
Mm.
me as an employee? So I feel like the best entrepreneurs and the ones that get equity capital, to talk about like playing chess, they've spent the time and figured it out. And one story I'll tell you, Dave Long's been a friend for a long time, no pun intended, who lives in West Palm, actually, Delray or something, with Orange Theory.
Nice.
Yeah, he used to be the head of franchising of regional for Massage Envy, with the other guy from Massage Envy,
Okay.
Jerome. And Dave Hardy is one of their investors and strategic partners, as well as the founder, Ellen. who started up Orange Theory. So I used to go down to Dave Long when I'd go see my parents down in Florida, and I'd meet them up in Fort Lauderdale. And this is when Orange Theory had like 5 locations, and I had like 10.
Wow.
And I was kind of like, in a way, I was like, what are you like semi-retired, man? Or like, what's going on here? And he kind of, as I think back to those conversations that I had with him and those like coffee meetups, it's because the special sauce wasn't developed yet. Like the ingredients were not all put together. And he knew, to his credit, that I'm not growing this thing to 50 or 100 locations until I got the special sauce right. It's like if I was an Italian restaurant, I'm like, all right, I got this special sauce, this Italian sauce. But it's like it's in beta. You can't sell it to people until it's ready. And they kind of hit at the right place at the right time, with these limited, unlimited memberships. When technology and mobile was to the point where people wanted the data. They call all their instructors or team leaders, by their team leader or like instructor or coach. They don't call them, it's not Andres doing like a Drake thing or, Pete doing a Rihanna. It's not based on the individual, right? It's based on the workout. So that takes away some of the risk that you talked about with the business,
Sure.
Somebody's doing sales, maybe they're not called a sales specialist because people don't like to be sold something, right? Am I selling you something, or am I like,
providing a service?
Yeah, am I like so words matter, the script matters, making sure you understand what the person wants to achieve. And if somebody comes in and says, I can't pay this price, let's say, or somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm thinking about going to Planet Fitness and paying $19 a month. And you're like, well, we don't have a $19 a month membership. We got $39, we got $99, and we got $199. And they say, well, could you give me a discount? I think some people have to have the guts to say, hey, you're not my customer. Like if you want to self-serve, go to Planet Fitness. I'm going to text you. I'm like, what do you want to achieve? I want to lose 25 pounds. Okay, this is what we're going to do. You don't want to pay to use our facility or to be part of this community and get the results that I will guarantee you will get. So I'm going to text you in 90 days. Okay, we're going to meet up. I'll come to you. And I want to find out if you met your goals. And if you did on your own, that's awesome. And good for you, right? And you should have been at Planet Fitness. And that's great because you accomplished your goals there. But if you did not meet what you wanted to achieve, come back to me. So think about that as a way to like, I'm not selling you on something, or I'm not saying no. I'm saying, look, you make the decision. I will help you achieve your goals. Or if you could do it on your own, that's awesome. Problem is 90% of the people can't. Okay. But if you're that 10% that can, just go there because that's where you belong. And I love Planet Fitness because it's got 20 million people off the couch. And like everybody that I talk to that's a stranger that works in some kind of, gig economy or an Uber driver or somebody at a bar or restaurant, they're like, dude, this is awesome, man. I go whenever I want. It doesn't hurt me on financially. And it's like a feeder system to the rest of the club chains.
And Planet Fitness is like, what? I don't the grunts, the guys that want to build muscle. That's not my audience. Like they've told us, and we make fun of them for it. And meaning the commercials and whatnot and out there, and that's okay. Listen, you're different. Their javelin is not somebody that wants to compete and build muscle.
Correct. So if you think about, and this is what we do at our Halo Academy, and this is what the audience here needs to understand. The reason why they don't have people, they don't have dumbbells that are more than 50 pounds, and they don't want the grunters, and they have that grunt bell. The reason why they don't want them there is because they stay too long. Okay.
And they use the equipment.
Exactly. So if I'm running Southwest Airlines, okay, as an analogy, I can't have people, getting first class seats, right? Because that's going to slow down the turn of a plane from gate to gate. So a case study that we go over in one of our classes is like a Southwest Airlines. They don't have seat assignments, right? There's no food, and there's no first class or business class, right? So and they also use the same plane. Right, so the Boeing 727 is the only plane in the Southwest Airlines fleet. Right, so from a time that a gate, and they don't have TVs on the seats, right, because that would create a maintenance issue, refunder issue. So when you think about all that's been designed in the business model, every one of those things is not because, hey, bro, let's just not have seat assignments. No, let's not have seat assignments because it slows down the boarding process. Let's not have food because it slows down the loading process. Let's not
Right.
have first class because now we have to treat people differently and we have to have like a class system, right? Let's not have 5 different airplanes because now I have to have 5 different fucking spare parts in like all these different cities, right? So the average Southwest flight can hit a gate in LAX in 19 minutes, literally, Andres. 19 minutes, they will be out of the gate going to the next city. Where an average
Beautiful.
airline is 42 minutes. So they are running 2 to 3
Big
more
difference.
flights per day with that same aircraft
Mm-hmm.
because they've designed the business model in order to allow that to
Right.
happen. So every decision, like In-N-Out Burger, will never have chicken. Okay, they won't,
Right.
right? Because I need separate freezers, I need separate utensils, I got issues, I got space. I'm like, I do burgers,
Right.
I do fries, you
Yeah.
get cheese on it, I got condiments, I got drinks. And I crush that
And that's
model,
it. And
right?
like McDonald's like is a big brand, but the profit margins are not as good as they are for Chick-fil-A or In-N-Out. They're better because it's a menu smaller and
Right.
they know. Like you're saying, same analogy. It's the same thing.
So
It's
yes,
so
so
true.
Planet Fitness, like their business model is architected to basically be like the Southwest
Right.
Airlines of the fitness industry, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So if you're competing with that and you know that, you can tell someone and say, "Hey, look, if you could do this yourself, just go there and pay for it." But if you want
Totally.
some help, you want
Yep.
community, you want content, you want relationships, you want somebody to like really help you get there and coach you up to get there.
Yeah.
And you can bring friends and you can have your kids here. We got this group exercise program, all those things. That's like a differentiator to a business model, but it's a different business that we're running. So you can't be an Express Club and an HVLP 2.0 and a Lifetime Fitness and an Equinox, and a Soul Cycle all in one because you're running
No way.
business models that don't fit with each other. So pick what your business is,
Right.
figure out how to
Yeah.
optimize that, and then your annual maintenance fee or enhancement fee in the Planet Fitness case makes up 40 to 45% of their total cash flow. This from the annual maintenance
Run
fee or the
strong and
enhancement.
fast in your lane.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
what I'm hearing. Run fast and strong in your lane. Stay in your lane. Know your lane. And it's same thing for our business. We do the same thing. It's like we just do reviews, and I want to kind of bring everything together for us here. And you know, I have one question because I haven't even asked you a question, but we've been
I think
unpacking
we
so
answered. I
much
think we
about this
answered all
business.
the required questions on our own, right?
I think we answered that and more.
All
I
right,
love it.
cool.
I'm not. This is. I'm getting more than I asked for. This is beautiful. I love it. It's like this gift that's unpacking
Yeah,
and
well,
unpacking.
let's keep
I
going
can't
until we
don't get
drain
enough.
out.
So I do want to make sure that we do ask you this one question. It's if you can recall an obstacle or a challenge that you've had in your business or currently having right now, and how you were able to overcome it. Is that something that you can help us understand? Because somebody out there could have the same challenge and is like, well, Pete, you're saying so many things and you've answered all these questions, but I still have this challenge that I'm having. Is there one that you could think of that can help us really understand
Yeah,
how you
sure.
overcome it?
Yeah, I'll give you an example without using a name. Let's just call it like let's call it like Pete's
Sure.
Pilates as an example. Let's say,
Okay.
and
Beautiful.
it's a
Pete's
and,
Pilates.
and
I
it's a
love it.
franchisor and it has 50 locations, and 10 of the 50
Okay.
locations are doing well, and then 40 of them just aren't. They're just not working. We franchised the business
Mm,
to somebody. They were probably maybe the wrong franchisees. Um, we didn't really have like an operating model that we had a $199 unlimited membership where you go all you want. Well, we realized post that decision months later that the people that would go to Pilates in this example were going 25 times a month, right? So 25 times a month divided by the 199 unlimited, they're paying like $7
yeah.
or $8, per visit. And I only had a certain amount of Pilates machines in there. So it was great that I was getting 199 from 100 people, but I really couldn't accommodate anybody else. And the usage was off the charts,
Mm,
right? So awesome. People are getting results, but I don't have the square footage to actually make a profit doing that. So,
okay.
to answer your question, there's some things that you need to do, and you need to say, look, if I've been doing this experiment for a period of time, okay, and I'm like doing franchising, and for some reason, like my franchisees aren't doing well, okay, and I can't figure out how to provide them a business model, which is franchising, give somebody an
Mm,
operating model that will allow them to make money, and a system. If you don't have a system that does that, figure out a way to change all your franchisees into licensees, okay, and get out of the legal obligation of being a franchisor, which has auditing
Mm.
expenses, which has compliance expenses, which
Wow.
has oversight. And I think there are certain times when you say to yourself, "Look, I've got to reinvent what I'm doing, or I need to stop, take a time out, and say, all right, look, can I actually get to a point where each one of these franchisees is making 60,000 a month, or did I grow too fast and not focus on the unit economics of my own franchise and my own corporate owned location,
Yeah.
and then I franchised it?" So if you're franchising right now, anyone in the audience right now, and people can't get to $60,000 a month in revenue, pause your
Mm-hmm.
franchise, start to try and figure out what else should be in my four walls, what else is part of my business model, or what's the pricing need to be, or what does the programming need to be. Don't sell more franchises, because you're running
Mm.
down a slope where people are not going to get results. And if you think about what we talked about with members earlier, this is about results and relationships. Those are like what you're playing with in the fitness industry if you're not an
I love
express,
that R&R.
right? R&R, yeah, return on relationships and results. That's the two things I like to say is
Yeah.
like my metric. So if your franchisees aren't getting results, their members can't get results, because now you got like a negative vibe with a company or a business that's undercapitalized, that's
Yeah.
losing money or not making any money. They can't hire the right people. It's basically a tarnishment to your brand over time. So stop, figure out like, hey, let's reinvest and recreate this model, and do another experiment. So a lot of businesses think that like, I open and I have the will and the right to succeed, and I'm going to figure it out. So
Yeah.
some people come to us and say like, hey, I got 10 locations, and I want to go to 100 gyms or whatever it is. I'm like, okay, which one's the prototype? Oh, the 11th, the one we're going to do next with your money. It's like you've had 10 experiments. And like, if none of these are the prototype, I'm not funding the prototype. That means you haven't figured it
Right.
out yet,
Right.
right? So you got to figure it out. So
Right.
before you go get investors, like, you got to really spend the time and the work and be in that studio and actually, run and figure out the business. And it might be something different than what you think it is, you know? But I think it's got to be true to what you believe. Like there are
Yeah.
operators that might say like, look, man, I love the Planet Fitness, business model, but that's just not who I am. Like, I'm not in like
Right.
the self-serve, fitness game. I'm in the full serve business game, fitness game. So then, like, don't have an HVLP concept, because you're not going to feel rewarded. Some people might say, I love
Yeah.
working with group exercise instructors, and I get people coming in and get results and doing Zumba and everything else. Find a business that allows you to stay true to yourself, but a franchisor can really help you on the marketing, on the software, on the compliance, on, a larger ad fund. Um, so I would say do the research up front, and a lot of the
Yeah.
data that we talked about with the franchise disclosure documents, industry reports, and then also, if you're going to get into a franchisee and a franchisor network, call up as many of the franchisees that are currently in it and they're all listed in the franchise, and say, hey man, if you would, hey man, ma'am or sir, if you could do this again, would you have bought this
Mm.
franchise? And
Wow.
every single person you ask that question to will tell you the God's honest truth if they would do it again. They'll always
Yeah.
tell you, because they don't
But
want
you got to
somebody
be able
else to
to
fail.
open that loop. And yeah.
You got to. Sometimes like people say, "Oh, I'm buying this franchise." I'm like, "How many franchisees did you talk to?" "Oh, they gave me a list, but I haven't called them yet." I'm like, "Dude, that's what
Wow.
you have. That's the most important thing for you to do
Communication.
right
Come
now.
on, let's talk.
Find out what the other
So
people
important.
say.
Success.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so good, Pete. So good, Pete. Oh gosh. I love that how you're discovered the issue of franchising, and getting money is not going to solve the problem. Solve the problem with what you have. You know, don't despise small beginnings. If you have 10 locations, make sure that you understand that every single one of your franchisees is being successful. If not, change your model. Make it a licensing model. Make it different.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Or
Yeah,
invest in
love it.
invest
That's
in
so good.
figuring it out. And it's not, you
Yeah.
know, I'll leave you with one other thing on this, because I think it's important. Um, if
Go.
you've got a franchisee group and they're having problems, okay, with your model, just remember one thing: you sold them the franchisee. You sold them the franchise. They didn't come up with this idea and like say, I'll take it from here, right? You actively
Mm-hmm.
said, I am franchising my business, and you sold them a business model that you had conviction in, and you said that it worked. And that's the reason why you should use my business model and pay me 2, 5, 6, 8% of your total revenue because I'm giving you something special in a box. Now, if
Mm.
they open that box
Right.
and it's not what they thought it was, or if they're not making money, that's on you as the franchisor. It's not like, oh, I got this shitty
Yeah.
franchisee. These people don't know what they're doing. That's your problem. Like you didn't educate
Yeah.
them. You didn't run the play, or maybe the play wasn't fully baked. And that goes to my point of like, maybe don't be a franchisor if you can't help other people make money and have like a system to do that. You don't really have the right to
Yeah.
become a franchisor.
If they can't run the play as well, maybe that's not the right position for them. They're not ready. You hired the wrong franchisee. They're not
Yeah, you
employees,
brought them
but they're
on.
still
Yeah,
you
you brought yeah,
qualify
yeah, you
to
allowed
play.
somebody to pay you. And look, a lot of franchisors are like, oh, somebody's gonna pay me 25, 50 grand for initiation fee on a franchise. Like, if we're sitting there like, yeah, of course we're taking that money. But you know what? You can't take that money unless you can deliver, the results
Right.
associated with that and what you promised them.
Make sure you're
So
a
I'd
fit.
be
I
yeah.
love it.
If you're a franchisor and it's not working, either let people out of their contracts, turn them into licensees, get money to buy them back, and refranchise them, which
Mm.
groups
I've
do
seen
at
that
times,
happen. Yeah.
and just kind of like
Some
retrench and
buyback
figure out like
franchisees.
what it is. And if your business is too complicated, you don't have to live with it. Do surveys of like your best 100 members and say, hey, what do you guys want this place
Mm.
to be? Or what's working here, what's not, and just listen
Right.
and then try and fix it. The
Just
problem
listen.
is that a
Yeah.
lot of groups end up doing that like too late and they don't have any money left to change, or they can't get investors or what have you. So, but I would say,
Right.
take time to really think about like what your business is, how technology is affecting it, what results you're delivering, and what relationships, correspond to that.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. I love it. I love it, Pete. Thank you so much. Wow, that was a lot to take in. Firstly, we talked about the DNA of being a successful business owner by listening to your audience. And secondly, we learned the importance of not solely allowing AI or automation to be the one asking your clients what they want. Lastly, we discussed so much. I would love to hear what stood out for you. So go ahead and drop me a comment on Instagram. You can find me at MeetEsco. I'd be super grateful to hear from you. And also, if you still need to do so and you thought about someone while listening, go ahead and share this podcast with them. I appreciate that. Thank you again for your time and attention in listening to our show. Remember to follow or subscribe if you still need to do so. Our next episode is going to be with Derek Bishop, and I can't wait to have you listen to our conversation. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing you next time in the Growth Zone.